So I do have a filter, but it's tough when Federer's hitting shots like that. It's just like, oh, fuck, man.
I know.
How did he do that? It's so good.
I hate him.
I know. "2017. We're a week after the Shanghai tournament, right? And I think if we've learned anything at this point, it's that Roger Federer he's doing well this year, is he not?
As much as I hate Roger, I respect him, and yes, he's doing well this year.
Yeah. So,
We know you've been a fan of Federer forever.
I'm a fan of Roger Federer, but it's not really just that I'm a fan of Roger Federer. It's pretty crazy what him and Rafael Nadal are doing this year, and watching that tournament. And I didn't watch the full thing, but I watched both their semifinal matches, and then I watched the final. And man, they are both playing on another level right now, and it makes you miss. It's been a weird year because I've missed Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray because it feels like 2005 again. Nobody can beat these two.
It does.
It's
2005 minus Andy Roddick.
Well, no, because we do have Andy. Andy Roddick is the sum of all the other players on the tour right now. Because what he is he's pick a random player in the top 10 right now who's not Nadal or Federer. Team.
Yeah.
He can't beat Federer or Nadal, and that's exactly what Andy Roddick was.
Wow, that's
Roddick,
deep.
Andy Roddick,
I didn't think we'd get that deep.
Andy Roddick was just
podcast.
he's the everyman tennis player who is he's pretty good, and if Federer and Nadal weren't around, he'd be winning majors, right? But you could say that about anybody in the top 10 right now. Basically, if those two weren't around, Cilic would have 2 more majors. Del Potro would probably have another major or 2. Everybody would have another couple majors. My point is, Andy Roddick is not any good, and I'm sorry.
You're gonna have to take that back eventually.
But he's fine. He's good. He's just, he's not worth you making your stand over that player and saying he's your hero, because
he was my hero and he was yours too.
He wasn't my hero. My hero was Roger Federer, and just look at
you're a traitor to your country.
It's not treachery. It's just standing behind the best, and.
Well, you know that my boy in recent years has been Novak Djokovic, and you can't tell me that Federer would have had the year he had if Djokovic was around and healthy all year.
I think that is probably true. I think that
he might have still won a few tournaments, but it would have taken more effort, and he would not have had the results that he had.
I think Federer,
say for instance, he had to play Federer, or he had to play Djokovic in the semis of a tournament and then play Nadal in the finals. He might not have been as fresh for that final against Nadal.
I think that's totally true. I think that if Novak Djokovic is playing the way he played a year or 2 ago, definitely neither Nadal nor Federer would have won nearly as many tournaments. But Djokovic burned himself out. This is life. Djokovic burned himself out by being this machine man for the past 3 years, and these are the consequences of it. It's the reason Federer had to take off the last half of last year. You would play all these what if scenarios, but that's what makes these two people, Nadal and Federer, so good. Is that these things affect people, and injuries happen. It's part of the game, and they're just rising above it.
And one reason I always respected Federer, even though I didn't like him very much, is because you never said, oh, he's burnt out. If you think about the strength of Nadal and Djokovic, for instance, they're very similar in a lot of ways. They just physically grind you out. Djokovic's strength, you could say, is his flexibility and his endurance. Mm-hmm. And he has 12 majors, 11, something like that.
12, I think.
Which is awesome, but it caught up to him just like it caught up to Nadal. And now Nadal was hurt last year and Djokovic was hurt this year. But Federer just had a back injury last year. And that was the first time he'd ever been injured for an extensive period of time from what I can recall.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have that grinding style. He just has an all-around pretty awesome game and doesn't really need to exert that much energy somehow. So it's allowed him to stick around all this time, and I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. I respect that.
Well, I think that's what's going to be so... Like, I'm going to take Federer out of the equation because he's just like a freak athlete, or like, he's just kind of a freak. So what he's done is weird, but like, I think Nadal, I think the reason I don't like Nadal, but I think the reason that Nadal appeals to so many people is because he's sort of like, he's not an everyman, but his style of play, he does things that you think that, like, if I just worked as hard as he did, maybe I could do that too. Federer is like a weird, like, he's just some weird talent. But like Nadal just, he's like, he works so hard, and he's training so hard, and he makes you think that you could do that too. And Djokovic is kind of similar. They're both just like, they do normal things very well, but they're not necessarily like spectacular. They're just like,
I don't know about that.
They can't. I think no. They're just like very like, they're impenetrable, but they're not flashy. They're not doing like things that I think unnecessary, like that you couldn't. There's no like superhuman ability to them, I think, other than just like their will.
I kind of get what you're saying. I agree with you, maybe like 75%. But I would say if you had to think of an everyman on tour, it would not be either of those two, because they do have freak talent as well. I mean, come on.
I mean, maybe Nadal, but what does Djokovic do that's that good? What's his like flashy weapon? When does he ever hit a shot that you're just like, how? It's always
I think
just
his backhand is
good.
Still the best backhand,
it's a good backhand
on tour. Even better than Murray's, in my opinion.
It's a good backhand, but like, it's not like when you watch Federer dance around the court, just like hitting these crazy,
of course,
whipping angles and like,
yeah,
it's crazy. But I feel like Djokovic in particular, like, and maybe not Nadal as much, but Djokovic, like, I can't. He just, if you take every tennis skill there is, I don't think he has like any 10s. He just has like 9s across the board.
That's fair.
So there's nothing to attack.
That's fair, but that does not make him an everyman. The person I'm thinking of who would be an everyman on tour is David Ferrer.
Well, but my point, so I'm not saying Djokovic is an everyman, but I'm saying that, like, I could actually, he's the kind of person where you think that he's not doing anything that seems impossible. It's just he does everything very well. And I could imagine that, like, if I just had some sort of work ethic and an access to a bunch of trainers and stuff, that then maybe I could do that too. And I'll agree, Nadal kind of looks like a bodybuilder person that I don't think any power on heaven or earth could make me into that. But like Djokovic, he doesn't seem that scary. He's just like this like Serbian machine that like you can't break down. But it's not because he's not Superman. He's like,
it's that flexible guy. I would
Fantastic Four guy?
I would just think of Djokovic as being like super flexible and agile, which is not like
down.
a hard, which is not something you can just work on. I mean, yes, he stretches for like 2 hours a day and he eats grapes for breakfast, but I still wouldn't call him like an everyman. Same with Nadal. He clearly had talent. He broke on the tour. Both of them broke on tour at like 18. Djokovic won a major at 20. Nadal won a major at like...
Djokovic didn't win a major at 18, did he?
No, at 20.
Yeah, 20.
Nadal won at 18.
Yeah.
French.
Yeah.
But like, Ferrer is the guy who has nothing special about him except grinding. He doesn't move particularly well. He has a good forehand. Doesn't serve all that big. But like,
who are you describing? Are you describing David Ferrer or Novak Djokovic? They're the same. They're both just like very good at everything.
No, that's not.
Djokovic is just like one step up. Here's what Djokovic is. He is David Ferrer, but just Ferrer's a 7 at everything, and Djokovic is a 9 at everything. He's like a couple levels up, but he's not doing anything He's not doing anything.
This is below you. This is beneath you.
I think I'm absolutely correct. Your description exactly matches Djokovic.
Let's get Novak on the phone and have him describe his game. Would you Novak, would you describe yourself as a 9 to David Ferrer's 7? He would never say
I think
that.
he might be.
No one would ever say.
Okay.
Let's get Patrick McEnroe on the phone. He's got nothing to do.
So when you see Djokovic play, like what do you think is like? So with Federer, it's his serve is like pinpoint accurate. With Nadal, his like heavy topspin forehand just like whipping. It's crazy. Djokovic has what, a hard backhand? Like, what is he really good at other than being really flexible?
He's
really good at everything.
His shot selection and placement is the best. I would say maybe not the best, because Federer has like just brilliance. He's like brilliant in that regard. But on a consistency level, every point he makes the best shot selection, and he hits with so much margin that it doesn't look like he's trying very hard in some aspects. That made him so dangerous for basically 6 years, from 2011 to 2017. Until now, he's had great results.
Right.
Why are you fighting me on the talent of Novak Djokovic?
I think he's really talented.
Shot selection like that does not come from
just
grinding. That has some...
I think you're totally misrepresenting my opinion. What I'm saying is he's really good, but he's someone that like I can relate to, because it's like I don't feel like he's doing anything that like he doesn't have any otherworldly talent or something. The way like Federer and Nadal, I feel like they have some element to their game that is not reproduciceard. Whereas Djokovic, he just does everything.
You put
very
Nadal
well.
In the same category as Djokovic a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I changed my mind. I remembered those forehands,
so
and now I think it's just Djokovic is not. Djokovic is the everyman. Nadal and Federer are both pretty special. Yeah, that's where I'm gonna. I talked myself. I had to talk about it a little bit. Think about it. You got to talk these things through.
That's why we're doing this.
That's why we're doing this, so that it's really. The show is an exercise in just talking through your emotions, because tennis is an emotional sport.
Yeah, nice segue there.
Yeah. Coming to the end of the year now. Got one more Masters, got Paris, and we got Basel after that. And then, no?
I think Basel's before Paris.
Oh, whatever. The point is they're both coming up in the next, 2 or 3 weeks. And then the season's over. Got World Tour Finals, so there's not a lot of time left for players to get into the top 8, and it's kind of crunched up between 8 to 12. There are 4 or 5 people that can still make it in.
Now you're right. There's 4 people who have made it for sure, but there's still 4 guys who haven't. So
a lot of open spots.
Why don't we look at the list and run it down and see what we can think of? This will be our
sounds good.
Make some predictions. You ready?
So number 1 on the list, who's already made it, Rafael Nadal.
You guessed it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Nadal.
10,465 points, Nadal. That is insane.
He has had a very good year, and I'm not surprised that he made it. What's crazy is that his year could have been a lot better. If you think of the people he's lost to, and he's got 9 losses this year.
Sounds like a lot.
Half of those are to Federer. If Federer does not, Federer's an old man. If he doesn't, I don't know, find some, the voodoo magic that he found in order to get good again this year, Nadal would have had a crazy year, because 4 of his losses are to Federer, and those 4 losses were 3 Masters plus the Australian Open. So if you think about that, Nadal could have won 3 majors this year, could have won 5 Masters tournaments, because I think those losses are Australian Open, Indian Wells, Miami, and Shanghai. Those are the 4 to Federer. You take those away, Nadal has one of the best years he's ever had. So kudos to Rafael Nadal. I don't like him very much. I think he's a good person, but I really don't like him, because he keeps beating Federer. Or he used to. Not anymore.
It's true. You had your revenge tour
Yeah,
this
it's
year.
been a fun year watching Nadal lose to Federer. But, so anyways, Nadal's number 1. Number 2?
Okay, so Federer got 8,500 points with, I think, over 40 wins and 4 losses. That's pretty good.
He won Australia, Indian Wells, Miami.
He won the double, which was insane.
Then Halle and Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And then I think Shanghai. I think that's all. It's pretty good, though. That's,
That's pretty good. In the
6, 7
quarters
tournaments.
of the U.S. Open, yeah.
So, Federer had a good year. He had probably the most efficient year because you're right. Skipped the whole clay court season. It's four or 5 big tournaments there.
I mean, he's always been the most efficient player in that regard, I think. He would just, like, even earlier in his career, he would not mess around with the smaller tournaments. He would just show up and just dominate the big ones. I mean, Djokovic ended up doing the same thing as well. But
yeah, one thing I've never fully understood is why Nadal plays these tournaments in Mexico or like Acapulco.
Yeah, why the hell?
It's like it's so far out of the way, and I think it'd be hard on you to travel that much for two 500 level tournaments that, like if you win, who cares? I don't know. It seems like a lot of energy to waste. If I were on the tour, I would play like, your home tournament, for instance, Basel or Barcelona.
Yeah,
they're small ones, but like there's value to that.
Yeah.
And maybe for the grass court season, it makes sense to try to play a couple tune-ups. But like, why are you playing? Even like Dubai, I wouldn't play Dubai.
I questioned why. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Nadal playing Acapulco, he didn't even win. Lost to Query.
Yeah,
my man Query.
Yeah, that was a good win for Sam.
I questioned even Federer playing in Basel because it's like.
Well, I mean, there's like, I don't know. I think it's his home city, so there's emotional value there.
Yeah, but
so and same thing. Like I think Nadal he's won Barcelona how many times? 10, 11. So like they've named streets after him and stuff. And
yeah,
I think they're gonna name the center court in Barcelona after him. I feel like I read.
I think it's already.
Is it already
done,
like Rafael Nadal?
And he won the tournament this year.
He's still playing it, still winning it.
So we have Nadal and Federer. Obviously, Nadal 10,000, Federer 8,500 points. Nadal's probably going to be the year-end number one. I think that's pretty set at this point.
I think Federer can technically do it if he like wins Paris, wins Basel, and wins the Tour Finals. But probably it's going to be Nadal.
And then Zverev. I'm looking here, 4,400 points, that's a lot, and he's only 20. Still half of Federer's points, which is insane. But he's third. I mean, this kid's going to end up in the top 3 already. At the beginning of the year, I thought he would be in the top 5 in like a couple of years. So they started the year in like the mid-teens, right? Like maybe like 18.
Yeah.
And he has just blown away expectations. Just like rose up so quickly, had some great wins, and now he's third in the race. And it says here he's the youngest to qualify since Delpo in 08, which I had no idea Delpo was that good in 08. I thought 09 was his breakout year. But anyway. I mean, so we can talk about Zverev all day.
Here's an example of a huge beneficiary of Djokovic and Murray not playing well. Is that these other guys now like have a shot to win some tournaments. Like,
it's true.
He is clearly Federer and Nadal were able to win majors because those guys weren't playing well. Zverev was able to get to 3 in the world, and I don't think that would have happened if those two were playing, or like Wawrinka were playing all top of their games.
He is a great player, though.
Oh, I think
solid. He is consistent, and he hits hard.
He will be number 1 in the world in a couple years.
So for a while, I said the top 2 in the world will be Kyrgios and Zverev, top 2, with Kyrgios number 1.
Mm-hmm,
I think I'm going to keep that prediction in place, except switch it, and Zverev is going to be number 1. He's slightly more consistent. Very, very much more consistent.
I mean, he's consistent in the mental game. I think he's like a little bit more. I mean, they're both really young, and there's still time for Kyrgios to sort of figure out his mental state a little better, so that he can like consistently do well in the early rounds. That's where he has trouble in like the second round of tournaments because he doesn't care enough, or like doesn't have the.
Well, I don't want to impugn any motive on him. I think people are too hard on him. I think he's a great player, and everyone goes through stuff. A lot of the things people are saying about him, people said about, Andre Agassi back in the day, and he turned out fine. Maybe it's not to the same level.
I mean,
but Andre Agassi got into some stuff.
I'll say this:
I think he still can be top 2 in the world, and I stand by that. He's still young. He has so much talent. He has more talent than Zverev.
Kyrgios is young enough. I'll put it this way: like if you put all this pressure on me when I was 20 years old, I probably wouldn't necessarily have acted like, I don't know, a machine the way they want you to act. They want you to be super mature, and it's hard to do as a 20-year-old. So there's still a lot of time for him to actually grow up the way normal people grow up, which is in your early to mid-20s, you sort of mature a bit. So, like...
And they want you to play 26 tournaments a year.
Yeah, it's tough.
Which we were talking about earlier.
The thing is, like, in 5 years, he'll be... How old's Kyrgios now? Is he 21?
I think 22? He's 21 or 22.
So, like, 5 years from now, he'll be 27, which is not old. You know, 5 years is a long time, and he could win a couple majors in that time and get to number 1 or 2.
That's what I'm saying. I think
he can. It's not impossible. I think
he can.
Right now, Zverev is the better player in terms of just... Like, if I had to pick one or the other, like, in a tournament today, I would pick Zverev. But, you know, in the long run, I think Kyrgios, you might be right, has a little bit more potential.
It is a shame we're not talking about him. I mean, I just read an article today that he's injured.
Kyrgios.
I think he's pulling out for the rest of the year. It's a shame we're not... He's at number 16 right now in the race. It's a shame he's not in the top 8. But I think next year... Yeah, I still have a lot of faith in him.
Yeah, he did well the U.S. hardcourt season, so he'll have points to defend there. I remember him losing to Federer, I think in the final of Miami, maybe in the semifinals of one of those. But he had a good year. Kyrgios, especially the early part of the season, I think he did quite well. And he probably just needs a break. You know, I think, and I think we'll talk about this at length at some point. I think they should shorten the tennis season and give these guys a break. I think it would... The old guys would like it because, you know, the chance to rest their bodies. And a guy like Kyrgios, I think, could really benefit from 3 months off where you don't have all this pressure in the media around you.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because earlier today I was thinking about this. I always think about the Australian Open. I always think about the next major, right?
Yep.
And the Australian Open is always the most interesting because everyone's coming off from a month off.
Yeah, there's no momentum really going into it.
And it's always been the wild card tournament in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had back in the day. You had Baghdad has come up. You had
Tsonga,
and the year before that it was Fernando. Verdasco had a good year, and then it was Fernando Gonzalez was a few years before that.
Safin won this tournament a couple times. I think
Safin always did well at the Australian.
Oh, I miss Safin.
I don't care about Safin.
We won't. Oh, come on. You're not a Safin guy? I'm a big Safin guy.
I like that he beat Federer, if we're going to be honest.
I don't like that, but he was a crazy Russian. He was kind of fun.
He was crazy.
You're right. Australia is a fun tournament.
So my dark horse pick for Australia is still Nick Kyrgios. I would love for that to happen, and I would love for that to happen so irrationally that I'm going to pick him to win the Australian Open right now.
It's a little early to be making such
Even though we're
judgments.
talking about all that firepower coming around.
We'll see.
For the Australian.
I
think
so.
Nick
I would like to see
it.
him win a major. He's fun. And, you know, it would probably shut some people up, which I think would be great.
Yeah. Imagine, like, he has 3 months to get his act together. There's plenty of time. Get a better coach. Get in physical condition. And then just destroy it at the Australian. That would be great.
He's got the ability to beat anybody on tour any day. So, the only question with him is can he just put it together for 2 weeks? And we'll see.
And 3 out of 5 sets is much.
Yeah, we'll see. It's hard to do that against guys, but you can try. So, all right. So that's Zverev at 4 or 3. Number 4 is
4 is Team. Dominic Thiem.
He was another guy who had a good first half of the year.
I love him. I'll be honest with you. I really enjoyed watching him on clay. Mm-hmm. I think he's made 2 consecutive French Open semis now.
Right. Yeah, and he did well.
And he hits so big for a guy who's not that big.
Yeah, he's another.
He's got a huge.
He's another guy who can grind, and he did well at the French Open tune-up tournaments. And if Rafael Nadal ever retires, he could win the French Open. You know,
Nadal ever retires.
I don't think he will win the French Open until anybody will win the French Open until Nadal retires. But I'm also just kind of still.
I'll give him an outside chance next year.
I have a little bit of PTSD from that 2008 French Open final when Nadal beat Federer and lost like 4 games, I think.
Yeah, I remember that.
I've never trusted the French Open since that tournament. So maybe Thiem could do it, though. He had a good run.
I wish he would make the final, and then maybe he'll have a shot in the final against Nadal, maybe on like a bad day. You never know.
Did you watch his semi against Nadal this year? It was brutal.
But he beat him earlier in the season.
In like Rome or
it was one of those.
Not in the French Open. He got... It's not even that it's the same thing that happens to everybody who plays Nadal in the French Open. It's like... It's not that he played bad against Nadal. It's just like... It's kind of like Wawrinka. Wawrinka played well in the final, but Nadal made him look pedestrian. So... best of luck to you, team. I'm rooting for you, and I'm happy to see you in the finals. Here.
I'll pick him. I think he's going to come out of the. We can get into this, but I think he's going to come out of the group in the World Tour Finals and make the semis. He'll lose in the semis. Even though he's not been great on hard courts, I think he'll take care of some of these other people in here.
I think he lost to who did he lose to in the U.S. Open? Del Potro, maybe.
I think it was someone worse than that. I don't think he had a good hard court season.
I think it was Del Potro. I think he lost Del Potro in the. He'll fight.
That.
He'll fight it out. That's good.
Tweet us if you know the answer.
So these are the 4 guys who are in. They're already locked in. So we got 4 spots not locked in, right?
Yes.
And the first, number 5, is
Grigor Dimitrov. I mean, he's going to make it. It's just probably just a technicality at this point that he is not in already.
I agree.
I'll say it again. I like his resilience this year. I'm really impressed with. He had a rough start, like first 5 months of the year, I think, except for Australia where he did pretty well.
Made the semis.
I think he was really heartbroken by his loss to Jack Sock.
Do you remember
in the American hardcourt swim?
And he had a heartbreaking loss to Nadal in Australia. It was 5 sets. It was tough 5 sets.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, no, it was a close match. So he had a couple tough losses.
Yeah, right. And that could have really gotten him down.
The Jack Sock one, that was tough. Match points.
2 match points, I think.
Ouch.
And could have made the semis in that tournament, but he didn't. And I think he suffered after that, if I recall correctly. He was clearly not in the right place. I'm actually surprised he's number 5 in the race right now. So that just means he's been resilient and maybe even gone under the radar in some respects.
Yeah.
But I'm impressed with how resilient he's been. And, he did not start off the year this high up. Again, a beneficiary, I think Djokovic would have wiped the floor with him if he was around.
Yeah.
I like Dimitrov. I just don't think his game is as good as number 5 in the world. I don't.
Yeah, we'll see. But Dimitrov did his part, won when he had to win, and now he's probably going to make the finals, so good for him.
Yeah, good for him. I'm happy for him. Marin Cilic, number 6, 3,500 points. Only 25 points behind Dimitrov for the number 5 spot. I didn't know he's looking to qualify for the 3rd time in 4 years, but apparently that's the case.
Well, I mean, he won the U.S. Open 3 years ago.
That's true. That definitely helped
propel him. That got him in once.
2014, you're right.
And he's, I think he's always hovered around like 7 or 8 in the world. And because he's, I feel like he consistently does well in at least one major.
He had a great grass court season. He made the finals of Wimbledon, which was big. I'll tell you, though, I do not like his game at all. I don't like the style of him and Del Potro, where it's just flat, big, lanky hitting and not really doing much else, not really great movement. It's not fun to watch.
I mean, I'll say it's one of the joys of the clay court season is watching a point like unfold and watching the strategy of moving people around and setting up a point.
It's my favorite season of the year.
When these guys play, when like Cilic or Del Potro plays, there's very little. There's not a ton of. They're setting up the point, but it's always hit the serve hard and then hit your next forehand hard, and hopefully the point's over. So it's true that it's not as. There's no complexity to their game, I guess.
Right. And I don't think either of them had a good clay court season, which kind of ties into the lack of nuance in the game, I think. I could be wrong.
I don't know. But you don't like Marin Cilic. It's okay.
Yeah, not a big fan.
I won't judge you. He's another one of these guys, though, who he can beat anybody in any given day. His match against Nadal in Shanghai was very, very tough. I think it was like 7-5, 7-6, you know. So he deserves to be there, and he could make noise. I think he could beat any of these players. He could come out of his group. So let's see what happens with him. So that's number 6. What do we got for number 7?
So 7 is Stan Wawrinka. His season's over, so he will not be participating in the finals.
Okay. R.I.P. Stan.
So we'll just skip him. Yeah, it's kind of a shame. You got to respect the way he plays on clay, at least.
Yeah.
But Whatever.
All right, 8.
David Goffin. How's my French? Or Belgian?
I think he's Belgian.
French?
Yes, that's not really.
But it's French. They speak French.
Dude,
Goffin.
Goffin.
Tweet us if you're French.
Yeah. So Goffin he just won Tokyo. That was a couple
big
weeks
win.
ago.
500 points.
Yeah.
There you go.
So that's why he's there. And
so he's in the 7th spot right now. And then right behind him by about 150 points is Pablo Carreño Busta, who's had a great year, I think.
Semi-finalist of U.S. Open. So he did do pretty well, I think, clay court season too. So he's another deserving character, though. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how he does. So we got Goffin, and then we got Carreño Busta.
And then Novak Djokovic, who's out, obviously.
Yep.
And then 11 and 12, I think, are the last couple of contenders. Sam Querrey and Kevin Anderson. Sam having made 2 semis this year.
Yeah.
And somehow still only with 2,500 points. And the Acapulco title. I'm surprised he's not higher on this list, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I am kind of surprised too.
Kevin Anderson right behind him by about, if my math is right, 55 points behind Sam. Obviously having made the U.S. Open final, which was a huge deal.
Yeah, he got a lot of points from that.
So, all right. So we have Goffin, Busta.
Here's the thing, though.
Querrey and Anderson. What do you think?
So Berdych is 4. So Andy Murray's 13, and then Berdych is 14. And then Kyrgios.
Oh, yeah, Thomas Berdych.
So the thing, though, is with any of these guys, there are enough points up for grab between Paris, and I don't know if any of them are playing Basel, but there are enough points up for grab that I think anybody in the top almost 20, probably not
20.
Isner. If they win it, if you get 1,000 points from Paris,
well, Isner.
I mean, I guess some people are defending points, so Isner's
Isner made the finals of
Isner's
Paris
probably
last year,
lose
which
a couple
I was
hundred points.
surprised to find out. He's not going any higher.
Yeah.
I mean, the most he could go higher is, like 400
But I'm
points.
thinking, I have to look up last year's Strada, because I don't know who's losing points, or who's defending points, I mean. But, if Berdych wins Paris, that's probably at least an extra 500 points, depending on what he's defending. Probably more like 700-800 points. Then suddenly he's in the top 8. It's plausible, maybe a little unlikely, but I feel like there's room for anybody who's ranked here between like 8 and 15 maybe could get in. But
I respect Berdych, but I think this time he's done for. I mean, he's a good 400 points behind Anderson.
Yeah, it's probably.
And I just don't think
it would take an effort that probably won't happen, because the truth is that Paris will probably be won by like Federer or Nadal.
Or
maybe Zverev.
Or some big server surprise like Isner.
Well,
you never know.
I mean, so
maybe Anderson.
I guess that's the thing. Like, if it's true. Anderson or Querrey, they're both big servers. It's indoors. It's fast.
It's true.
Berdych, he's got a big serve too. But any of those guys could, come and blow up, win that tournament. So if you had to pick who's going to fill out these last couple spots, so we're assuming Dimitrov and Cilic are going to get in.
I still think that's a fair
So
assumption.
you got to fill in the last 2 spots. Who do you put in there?
Okay, so among Goffin, Carreño Busta, Querrey, and Anderson, I got to go with my boy Sam Querrey. I got it.
Okay.
I have faith in him.
American pride.
He's gonna. I think he's had a rough couple last weeks since the U.S. Open, but I think he's gonna pull it together and have a big showing at Paris. I have a feeling he's gearing up for that. I think he's gonna take the 7 or 8 spot, and then my other pick would have to be Carreño Busta. I think he's the same way. It's more that I just don't have faith that Goffin can go very far in Paris. Even though, it's French speaking, I think he'll feel pretty at home in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
He would have done well at the French if he hadn't gotten injured.
Yeah, that's a shame. He's playing well, though. He did just win Tokyo, so he's got some momentum here. I think.
Yeah, but maybe he's tired.
he might. I don't know. You just don't believe in Goffin because he's small.
Yeah, but
and these are indoor.
Would you really pick him on
So
to your point.
So my picks are going to be, I think it's Querrey. I think you're right. Querrey gets in, and I'm going to pick Kevin Anderson because I think both those guys have a good shot. Big servers. I think they both could do well in Paris, pick up some points. Basel's indoors too. If one of them plays Basel, get a couple hundred points there. I think they will sneak in. I think Goffin could. He's one of these guys where, like, I'll believe it when I see it with him. And I think I feel that with every match. It's like I always enjoy watching him play, but I never think he's going to win.
I completely agree with you, actually. It seems like both of us just don't have enough faith in him to do well the rest of the indoor hardcourt season.
Yeah.
It's more about we think the big servers are going to have a better showing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simplistic to think that way, but I don't know. Big servers, John Isner got to the Paris final. He's a big server.
That's it.
I think it's simple, but if it's Occam's razor. The obvious solution is often the right one. So you're picking Busta. I'm picking
Busta
Kevin
and Querrey.
Anderson. So we'll see.
Yeah, So Goffin, it's funny because I seem to remember. So I think Goffin is sort of like a Gilles Simon type, and it's funny that just the way that they both kind of just grind the way on court. He doesn't hit very big, from what I can tell.
No, he doesn't.
Solid off both wings and can run a marathon.
Yeah,
I'm assuming not a huge serve either.
Well, he has to be that way because he doesn't have the frame to hit power.
Yeah. He may have a big serve, but maybe I'm mistaken.
He does not have a big serve.
And Gilles Simon, a funny thing, I just thought of this. I remember Gilles Simon breaking out on the scene in the indoor tournaments at the end of the year.
Really?
Back in, 2009 maybe. That was his breakout, was the indoor season. And I was thinking, how is someone who hits with no pace doing well in the indoor hardcourt season? I think he beat Nadal that year on the indoors.
I'll say part of it.
Maybe Goffin does have it.
Anyways, so
who else do we have to keep an eye out for? I mean, Anderson, kind of a boring guy, decent player.
He's another one of these guys.
He propelled to the top.
He hits it hard. You don't like big tall guys.
Except for Isner. Isner, you're my best friend.
Querrey's tall too.
And I like Querrey a lot, but Querrey moves well.
Yeah.
Anderson moves well for his size. I like the way Querrey's been playing. I think he's going to do well in Paris.
Man, it's pretty brutal looking. Nishikori and Raonic are 19 and 20.
Oh my goodness, what happened to them?
Those guys used to be like 4 and 5 in the world last year.
Gosh. Well, I never had much faith in Nishikori. I
remember
Dick Drysdale saying in 2014 when he lost the U.S. Open final, he's like, don't worry, he'll win 1 or 2 majors in 2015. Guess what? Never happened. Never happened.
For all the listeners out there, a recurring theme in this podcast as we go on will be that Mark has very little faith in Kei Nishikori. And I don't really know why.
And the other recurring theme is 2009 Wimbledon.
Yeah, he really...
Worst day of my life.
He's really never gotten over that one. And that one he will never get over. And it's very sad. But,
Well, look, I mean, we can get into this. We made predictions at the beginning of the year, January 5th, 2017. We made predictions about various players, including Kei Nishikori. Peter, you picked him to make the semis of the French.
I did.
Just one semi, and you said it was going to be the French.
I did.
I said he would make 1/4.
Yep.
And it would be the Australian. I believe he made 1/4, and it was the French. Maybe we can double check.
I'm going to try and look it up real quick here.
But I love negative predictions. Who do I think is going to suck this year? We'll have another video.
It's hard to say. He got hurt. All right, he got hurt, and that can happen to anybody. I mean, we both predicted Serena Williams to win a major. Neither of us predicted Australia, but then we didn't know she was pregnant, and that'll do it. So you can't predict all these things.
How is that a counter argument to me?
My point is that
picking against Nishikori,
you got lucky because he got injured and he wasn't able to play the U.S. Open. He got to the quarterfinals of the French, 4th round of Australia, 3rd round of Wimbledon. So he didn't have his best year. He made the semis of the U.S. Open last year.
And this was supposed to be a year where the top guys were out, so if someone's going to move into this slot, it could have been him.
He got hurt.
He decided, no, not an excuse. He's just not that good of a player. I'm sorry.
He's been dealing with injuries all year. You know, else is we can. I just think you're being a little harsh on him.
Don't you dare bring up Jack Sock. I know what you're about to say. Jack, you're my third best friend. You gotta do better, son.
So I was wrong on Kei Nishikori, but there are other predictions that we made. We all both tried to predict Jack Sock's tournament results this year.
Yeah, I thought he'd be in the top 10 at the end of the year. I thought this conversation would involve Jack Sock.
He is not in the top 20, I think. And that's partly because he did not make it past the third round of a major this year. First round twice.
That's very sad to learn.
Not very good for Jack, but he's doing his best.
He had some good results at some Masters, but yeah, I still have a lot of faith in him. He has a lot of talent. I know you don't agree with that, but
he's fine. He's okay.
So much potential, and I wish he would just. He had a rough American hardcourt swing, and that should have been his bread and butter. I think he'll do fine next year. Maybe next year he'll be in the top 10. That first round
loss he had at the U.S. Open this year was a bad loss. He should not have lost that match. He was playing like a pusher, and this guy was exhausted, like cramping up and just playing. Jack Sock made so many unforced errors. It was just so sad to watch.
And it's funny. I think he should keep playing doubles. I think he's kind of stopped recently, except for the Laver Cup. But he should keep going with that because it actually helped his game. I think when he was at his peak in singles, he was also at his peak in doubles.
Well,
he's a great he's a good all-around player.
He's good, but he's another one of these guys. He's just not consistent enough to beat any. He can't win 7 straight matches. He can't win 5 straight matches. Couldn't win 3 straight matches.
I thought he would make the semis of the U.S. Open. I really did, but was not to be.
That was not to be. Anybody else we made predictions on that's worth mentioning? You were right about Thiem. He got to the semis.
I was right about Thiem. Yep.
And Coric, he's not any good.
Borna Coric.
He's bad at tennis.
He had a good win at the U.S. Open, I think.
He beat Zverev, U.S. Open.
He beat Zverev, that's right.
But that was about the end of it. That was the end of his story, though. I don't think he did much after
Speaking of that, Zverev has not had good results at majors this year, and he's still number 3 in the world. I don't think he made it past the third or fourth round of a major this year, or ever. I think he just has a few Masters 1000.
Yeah, I mean, I think he won. Let's see, he got to the you're right, 4th round of Wimbledon. It's the best he did.
He'll do
better next year.
Though. We'll make another prediction sheet and talk about it.
I'm surprised that he did so, but he did well, and he won the Rogers Cup. Must have done well in a couple other tournaments.
He won a clay court tournament.
Did he
I think he won
Rome?
Rome, didn't he? One of those. Couldn't have been Monte Carlo. We all know who won that.
Nadal hasn't lost that tournament ever in his life, I think. Well, in any case, Coric is bad. Not good at tennis anymore.
He's 19.
He's young.
He's got potential too. He's more of a grinder though, so it's harder for someone who's a young grinder, I think, to just make it to the top. I mean, you got to just grind it out for years.
He's in the race to Milan, so he'll probably be in that tournament. He's 6th in that list.
Oh, good for him.
So
I like him.
I guess if he's young enough to be doing the race to Milan, I feel like he's been around for a long time.
Well, we were talking about him last year. He must have gotten hot last year.
He beat Nadal at one point. I remember, like in Basel or something.
Yeah, there was a big. He must have been making noise at the end of last year because we were talking about him in January.
I think you just like him a lot, and you make me make predictions about him. That's what I think.
Sure.
All right.
I think we good?
Those are
Oh.
Did you?
Time for trivia of the week.
Trivia of the week. Well, so I have a question to ask you, see if you know the answer, concerning the Paris Masters. So, looking through the list here of prior finalists, there has been one time since the tournament's inception that somebody lost in back-to-back years. 2009, 2010, same Frenchman lost twice in a row. Which Frenchman was it?
Oh my goodness. 2008, 2009?
9 and 10. 2009 and 10.
2009.
Only back-to-back loser.
a Frenchman who made the finals of Paris, so it was probably
So
a big deal.
It's a big
at the
deal.
time.
Yeah, it's like home tournament.
Now I have an answer in mind, but it can't be that obvious, or you would be asking me.
I mean, there are a couple. There were like 5 or 6 very good Frenchmen.
I have 2 answers in mind now. Shoot. I'm going to say...
Fun fact is that the next year, another Frenchman lost. So 3 years in a row, a Frenchman lost in that final.
I didn't know that. That must have been dramatic.
That was tough for Paris. Very difficult time for them.
I'm going to say Gilles Simon. 2009, 2010.
You are incorrect.
Is it Joey Fortsanga?
No.
Wait. Now, time out.
Okay.
What other French players are there? Let's see. Was it really...
a couple other good Frenchmen.
Yeah, was it really... of course. How could I forget?
Do you want a hint?
No, it's...
I mean, there are a couple... There's still a couple answers.
Yeah, it's...
hanging around. Oh, this hurts.
Pause.
Can't even...
I give up. Who was it?
Gael Monfils.
Monfils did well in indoor hard courts?
He won it twice, or lost it twice in a row, 2009, 2010. The next year, 2011, Joe Willie lost it.
Joe Willie.
So, those 3 tough
How
years
could
for
I
Paris.
forget about Gael Monfils? I love Gael Monfils.
Yeah, he's a fun guy to watch.
He's a great player. Why is he not in our conversation for the top?
Well,
is he in the top 20 right now?
He might be hurt right now, actually. He had a great year last year. I think he made the semis of U.S. Open last year.
Yeah, he's a good
Where
player.
is Malfi?
I just thought, so we were talking about Gilles Simon.
Whoa, he's 45 in the world right now.
Really?
Or that's the singles race. Let me see the actual ranking. But I bet it's probably similar.
45?
Yeah, 46 in the world. What happened to you, Gael?
That's crazy.
He's ranked right behind Ryan Harrison. Ryan Harrison's better ranked than him.
Really?
That's wrong.
Good for him. We were talking about Gilles Simon having made a run at the Paris Masters. I guess he never made the final.
Yeah. Well.
Oh well.
That's
all right,
our
that has
trivia
been
of the day.
Stump Mark.
And we stumped him.
And you stumped me.
And
one of these days I'm gonna have to get the answer right, or
maybe.
I just can't.
I could just start asking easier questions. So I think that one was reasonable.
That was a reasonable one.
The answer was reasonable.
I should have gotten it.
Yeah, it's weak.
We love you, Gail.
But all right.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Signing off for this one.